challenge, actually. Sean L. Scott is going to get his first start as a member of the San Antonio Spurs. David Robinson is going to take the night off. 5-0 deserves it. So David, just precautionary measures so he doesn't tweak the back, is going to get the night off. Danny Ferry, Tim Duncan down on the baseline. Derek Anderson, Terry Porter, as usual in the backcourt. And for Nate McMillan in his first year, closing out his first year, Richard Lewis, Wolkowyski, Ewing, Emmanuel Davis, and Gary Payton. On our Southwest the Dodge keys to victory coming in tonight.
Well, maybe we're a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but that's the keys right there. Don't get anybody injured. Make sure we stay healthy, remain physically intact. The only thing that the Spurs should be concerned with tonight is making sure guys break a sweat, they get ready, and everybody's healthy come Saturday when we open up against the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Patricia Garcia, our contestant tonight, Southwest Airlines three-point shootout. Terry Porter connects on the Spurs' first three-pointer. Patricia receives free air travel for two on Southwest Airlines. So let's finish it off in style. Patricia Garcia and Terry Porter get a three to start things off. Peyton will save it on the sideline. That's the way it begins. Spurs coming in, looking for their 59th. It would be their 26th win on the road if they can accomplish it. They would have the second best road record in the NBA. Only the Philadelphia 76ers with a better one. Ewing, too strong, and Sean L. Scott with his first rebound. Sean L. Scott deserves to start. He has worked so hard every day in practice. Unsung heroes like Derek Dial, like Ira Newell, like so many of the guys at the end of the bench. The challenge, the starters, Tim Duncan trying to leave it off for Sean L. Out of bounds, and the Spurs touched it last. Well, this does mark the fourth time in franchise history that the Spurs have had the league's best overall record. Had the best record 94-95, and that was their best season win-wise when they went 62-20. 95, 96, 59 23, 37 13, 99. Shortened season when the Spurs won the NBA title. Percentage-wise, the win tonight close to 72%, TJ.
And the only team in the entire NBA over 70% is Patrick Ewing wheels in. Gets the benefit of the call from Joe Forte.
So Patrick Ewing to the line. The Sonics missing the playoffs. They've made them in 9 of the previous 10 seasons. Sonics and the Rockets, just the fourth teams in NBA history since the current 16-team playoff format was instituted back in '84 to record at least 42 wins, yet not make it to the postseason. So Nate McMillan, he definitely got him going in the right direction, but they did hit a lull after the All-Star break.
No, they did. They had the one good spurt late where they got themselves above 500. But, I mean, he inherited a difficult situation. Obviously, the changes they made didn't work out. But I think the biggest problem Seattle had was the improvement of the rest of the teams in the league. Both Houston and Seattle did a great job. The rest of the West is just too good.
Danny Ferry, since he's moved into the starting lineup, better than 55% from the outside. And the Spurs have the first basket of the game after Ewing hit 1 of 2. So you look at Houston, you look at Seattle, and you realize how difficult it is in the Western Conference. Teams with winning records that can't get to the postseason. That wasn't the case last year, don't forget, though.
No, absolutely not. And again, Sacramento, we talked about Coach of the Year. I don't think we mentioned Rick Allen, but Sacramento barely in the playoffs last year in the 8th position. And this year they're fighting for the Pacific Championship. Great look by Terry Porter.
Pass
by Shondell underneath. But Sacramento almost wins the Pacific after last year barely getting to the playoffs. You know, another team we didn't talk about, Denver, what they went through early in the year. Dan Issam did a pretty good job in Denver. They stayed in the hunt also, but really no chance to make the playoffs.
Gary Payton ties it up at 4 with the first three-pointer of the contest. We'll also look a little bit later tonight. Biggest surprises in the NBA, biggest disappointments. And it's going to be interesting because Greg Popovich wants to give guys like Derek Anderson a rest, some time.
We talked about it last night, Joe. I think what you try and balance is, yes, you want to give them a rest, but you also want to keep them in pretty good shape. So when they're out there, play hard. We had an interesting talk with Kevin Johnson over the weekend. He said, when you know you're not going to play big minutes and it's not a game that needs to be won, and this game is meaningless in terms of getting ready for the playoffs, just get in there, play hard for a short period of time, break a sweat, and be ready for the weekend.
The last thing you want to do is relax while you're on the floor. You don't want to ease up. Danny Ferry looking for his second and in rhythm on an assist from Derek Anderson, ties it at 6. So Danny Ferry with 4 of the first 6. Sean L. Scott with the other 2. We'll be talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves and the problems they do create, because when we were on the pre-game show with Joe Reinickle tonight on UPN2, we looked at the numbers that Garnett has posted against the Spurs this year. Zerbiak has definitely come on in the second half of the season. He's a different ball player. Let's face it, he didn't get along that well with Kevin Garnett at the start of the year. They had their differences, as Derek Anderson can't get it. But the Minnesota Timberwolves starting to come together as a group.
Minnesota is going to be a problem. They've played very, very well against San Antonio in the Target Center. They're always tough, but so many of the games, even San Antonio will eventually be in the winner, tough games, and I think there's not going to be any gimmies in the Western playoffs. Doesn't matter who you play or where you're playing them, you're going to have to earn every win.
Ewing trying to create. Lewis setting up Peyton, who's already got a 3. And Ewing with the air ball, Sean L. Scott, his second rebound.
Tim Duncan with great pressure on that shot made Patrick pull up.
Tim is yet to take a shot. He was very quiet in the first half and then took over in the third quarter. At 13 points in one stretch. Davis with the foul. Sean L. Scott to the free throw line. We've seen some real nice passes early, though. Terry Porter with the first one, setting up Sean L. Scott, and also one from Derek Anderson.
I'll tell you, if you're a big guy, if you're a shooter, you want to play with the San Antonio guards. This time it happens to be Terry Porter. He finds Nelly all by himself. Saw Terry look away, get the defense to react towards the corner, and then he gets Nelly the easy look inside. But doesn't matter what point guard it is on the floor. Terry Porter, Avery Johnson, Antonio Daniels, Steve Kerr at times when he's been forced to play the point position. These guys look for each other. They find the open man, and that unselfish play has really become the trademark on the offensive end for the Spurs.
Well, the Spurs have also done it at the defensive end, like we've seen, and led the NBA in field goal percentage at the defensive end 2 of the last 3 seasons. They have made their mark once again this year at the defensive end of the floor. As Sean L. Scott comes up empty at the free throw line. Going into the last game of the year, Spurs third best in points allowed per game, second best in stopping opponents at the defensive end in field goal percentage defense. That's what they were last year, second best in the NBA. Danny Ferry doing a good job against Lewis and also receiving help from Sean L. Scott. Sean L. Scott gets back in time but couldn't handle it. Ewing taps it over to Terry Porter. Spurs running a 4 on Derek Anderson, 3 for 3. And the Spurs lead it by 3.
Another one of those good looks, Joe, we talked about. Terry Porter looked inside to Tim Duncan. That made the defense converge, and then he just looked away and found D.A. in the corner for the open look.
Spurs will finish the season and also set a franchise record in the moving pictures of Colo Wolkowyski as the number 1 team in the NBA and 3-point field goal percentage, right at 41%. And better luck next time, by the way, for Patricia Garcia. Patricia had picked Terry Porter to hit the Spurs' first 3-pointer. It wasn't Terry, instead it was Derek Anderson. So, Patricia, thank you for joining us. And all of you, all year long, who wrote in, participating in the Southwest Airlines 3-point shootout contest this year.
Talking about 3-pointers, Joe. We got the 2 best 3-point shooting teams in the NBA here today, Seattle and the Spurs.
Sean L. Scott, tough catch. Rashard Lewis trying to scrape it away. Sean L. hanging tough. And a 5-point lead for the Spurs. Second basket inside for Sean L. Sean L. had huge putbacks down the last 5 minutes last night. He shoved Wolkowyski to pick up the foul. Surprises. Let's talk about some of the surprises in the NBA this year as far as you're concerned. I go 3. Been that kind of night. Spurs had some great looks in the first half, but just in and out. A lot of tough breaks. And then Tim sat down. David didn't play to begin with. He joined us late. David taking the night off. Tim Duncan sat down early in the third quarter. As Desmond Mason has been feeling it all night. Batted out Steve Kerr and Shammond Williams. Steve couldn't control.
Shammond Williams got through some changes this year. There was a time when that headband wouldn't fit around Shammond's new dude.
Wolkowyski drawing the foul. The opportunity for the three-point play. When we come back, you're right. Some style changes for Siobhan Williams, without a doubt. The Dome Saturday, Monday. Let's get 35,000 out there. The Spurs, for the first time in franchise history, won the award, the league's attendance award, averaging over. And congratulations again to the loyal Spurs fans. Over 22,000 a game at the Dome this year as Wolkowyski converts on the three-point play. The last couple of minutes. They want Wingate to go up with it. It's his first game of the season. He's been on their injured list all year. Just an insurance policy. Chanel Scott with the rebound. New ownership. I was talking.
Not that Tim couldn't have, but it's a better supporting cast. Let's be realistic. You take Allen Iverson away from Philadelphia, they're a mediocre team at best. Obviously, the San Antonio Spurs would not want to play. We found that out in the playoffs last year without Tim Duncan. But I just think Allen Iverson had an extremely special year. I think he's deserving of the MVP award.
I put Allen down number 1 on my ballot. You've got 5 slots. I put Tim Duncan number 2 on my ballot as Chanel Scott beats the shot clock. Wolkowyski with the rebound.
Hey, TD is 1A.
I put Chris Webber number 3 because Sacramento would not be the same without Chris Webber. And I put Shaquille O'Neal with what he did for the LA Lakers this year. I thought he was amazing in the second half of the season. Got his free throw shooting together. And also really took over the leadership that they needed. I mean, there was some dispute as who was going to be the leader of that team because I think Kobe wanted it earlier in the year to be his team. So Shaq was number 4. Malik looking for a 3.
Well, I think awards like that have got to go to, the player on the best team. So, to me, I dead agree with you. You could even make a case for co-MVPs, but Allen Iverson had an unbelievable year. And we're going to find out whether he can continue to put the Philadelphia 76ers on his back and get them to advance in the playoffs.
Chanel Scott rejected by Wolkowyski, but again doesn't stop. 7 on the shot clock. Chanel Scott, 28 minutes, 14 points, 14 rebounds, both career best.
Got some tired San Antonio Spurs. Some guys are getting their minutes stretched out that haven't had this opportunity in a while.
Malik Rose will go. Shot clock down. Desmond Mason got a piece of it. Our UPS numbers, Spurs only 35%. Wingate, high off the window. I don't know if they've got chalupas in their future here, but that was an explosion once they passed the century mark.
Wasn't this one of the buildings where there was a chalupa incident this year?
Oh, man. Try to avoid those myself.
I don't blame you.
Wingate again. So the Spurs headed to the postseason. And the Seattle Supersonics headed to the offseason. John L. Scott blocked on the reverse by Wolkowyski.
A little bit of extracurricular activity going on underneath the basket with Sean L. and Olumide.
To give you an idea, Terry Porter played only 12.